like I said, I have been working with a large hospital in Maharashtra for almost 22 years, and I want to share some of my experiences of implementation of different types of solutions in the ICU. This is a tertiary care ICU which we have developed over last 2 decades. I'll just show you the photograph of this hospital. This is the first building of Dinanath Mangeshkar Hospital, which is a 450 bed setup, where we had almost 60 ICU beds. And this is the new building, which is a 650 bed super specialty hospital, and where we have a 140 bed ICU setup. So it's a fairly large, so almost 200 bed ICU in a 1000 bed hospital. Fairly large setup we have developed. I'll just show you one of the glimpses of the ICU beds, and this is how the ICU rooms looks like. Now, if we go to the infrastructure part, there are certain things you cannot do later once you start the ICU. So, I'm going to cover 2-3 points which, whenever the hospital is starting a completely new ICU setup, those can be done only during the initial period, because it needs a lot of construction or setting up the electrical points or laying the medical gas pipelines. So, this is the vertical ceiling suspended pendants we call it, or the ceiling suspended bed panels, through which we get the electrical points and gas points and network points. As you can see, there are 2 clear sections where one section is supplying the raw power. If you want to put a portable X-ray machine, you can put it to the raw power, or you want to put a syringe pump or infusion pump or monitors, you can connect it to the UPS points. So this is very important. You can also see there is a data point which is connecting the monitors to the central station, and like Dr. Manivandan said, many more equipment are now IoT enabled and needs some kind of a connectivity with the hospital information system, all the electronic medical records. The data of the monitors or the syringe pumps can be directly fed into these EMR systems, and for that we need to have many more such LAN points on these pendants. This is very important. If you want to run a dialysis or CRT, you need to make the right kind of plumbing connections into the ICU, mainly the RO water inputs, and for the discharge of the dialysis there has to be outlets. For RO water also there are 2 types of supplies. One is the offline system where the RO plant is generating RO quality water, and then it is stored in a tank and then it is fed to the dialysis machine. And second type is the online RO system, where the water is in continuous circulation. And why you need continuous circulation is if there is any stagnant water in the water tank or in the line, there is always the possibility of growth of bacteria or fungus or any kind of infection. So to avoid that, online systems are preferred by hospitals, and in our hospital we have an online RO system almost for last 11 years, and the infection rate has been really very low. This is again one of the infrastructure part, pneumatic tube systems for sending the blood samples to the pathology lab, getting the blood components from the blood bank. It can also be used to get the pharmacy, from the pharmacy outlet to the ICU nursing station. So setting up all this infrastructure in right place before starting the ICU makes a lot of sense and improves the workflow tremendously. So this is what we always recommend, that you should install a pendant, you should have dialysis input output, and you should have a pneumatic tube system in an ICU. For infection control, we have done a couple of efforts. We are not 100% successful, but we were successful in getting the infection rate in Dinanath ICU in less than the international standards. So this is one simple solution. This is an infrared kind of a box. Whenever a person just walks besides this box, this system will give an alarm and will say that have you washed your hands, have you worn the mask, and this kind of alarm is always given in this system. So this automatically gets switched off when no one is passing through that corridor, but whenever someone is passing through the corridor, it will start giving that alarm, and it's a reminder. Next thing is, for better infection control, we have installed bedpan washers in every ICU, and not only in ICU, in fact all the wards also. Bedpan washer helps in proper sterilization of the bedpans. If it is a manual process, many times it happens that the trauma or the class 4 workers tend to skip their job and don't give justice to that kind of work. That's why it is always recommended to install a bedpan washer which it works like a dishwasher. The water is heated to almost 85 degrees centigrade. It takes almost 9 to 11 minutes to sterile one bedpan, and it's a very efficient way of cleaning the bedpans. Next thing is like IoT enabled DVT pumps we just saw. There are IoT enabled ECG machines which can directly transmit the data from the ECG machine to the hospital information system or the medical record system, and the ECGs can be viewed. So there are two types of formats. It could be a DICOM format or it could be a JPEG format ECGs. Both formats can be connected. For ECMO, extracorporeal membrane oxygenation, you don't need really different kind of infrastructure, but you need to make provision for extra gas points. So whenever a patient who needs ECMO, he is already on multiple supports, like he needs ventilator, he needs ECMO, he needs dialysis. So standard 1 or 2 oxygen points may not be helpful. You need to have at least 3 or even as a backup 4 oxygen points on that bed where you intend to put the ECMO machine. This is one of the portable CT scan machine which helps in reducing the transport of critically ill patients. If the patient is on a ventilator, it's very difficult to shift the patient to a CT scan, which is typically installed on ground floor. My previous lecture, sir mentioned that ICU is always on the top floors and radiology is always on the ground floor. So shifting the patient from that ICU floor by lift to the CT scan, it's a painful exercise. So having this kind of portable solutions make life easy for the doctors working in ICUs. This is another view of that portable CT scan. Same way we can have portable ultrasound machines. In ultrasound machines also you have to take care. There are two types of ultrasound. One is having a focus on radiology and one is having focus on cardiology. Typically radiologists don't like the images of the cardiac oriented machine and cardiologists don't like the images of the radiology machine. So you need to do if the ICU is fairly large, then it always makes sense to have two different machines, one for radiology and one for cardiology. So on cardiology you have adult or pediatric cardiac probes, and on radiology machine you have convex, linear and TPTR probes if required. So transport setup is very important in ICU because not only for CT scan, you cannot bring an MRI in the ICU. If the patient needs MRI, you need to shift the patient. If you need to shift the patient for some investigations or for angiography, angioplasty, for some procedure. So you need a very good transport system. You need transport monitors with a good battery backup. What we have seen in last 2 decades is the major failure of these products is the battery backup is not adequate. And if the processes are not properly set, whenever the transport is required, that time the battery is not charged. And it creates a lot of problems. If the patient is not properly monitored, there is always a risk to the life of the patient. One more thing what we have been implementing in all the ICUs is, this is a very low cost solution. It's a simple bladder scanner. This is used to measure the exact quantity of the urine retention. A very low cost solution, previously being used only by urologists, but now we are installing this in every ICU we are building because doesn't need any PCP-NDT, there is no image, just put the probe on the abdomen of the patient and immediately you get the count, whether it is 50 ml, 100 ml, whatever is the count of urine in the bladder. So makes a lot of sense and very low cost investment, but this should be implemented in every ICU. I think the previous speakers have already talked about the point of care analyzers. The only one point I want to mention here is you really don't need to have all types of point of care analyzers. If the hospital is large, because the point of care analyzers, the only problem is the hospital tests are very high. So if I am doing a creatinine on my pathology lab biochemistry analyzer, if that cost is 4 rupees, if I do it on a point of care analyzer that Abbott iStat, the cost is 200 rupees. So there is no comparison, 4 rupees versus 200 rupees. So if it is only essential, like Dr. rightly mentioned, it is prop T or prop I, which is a life-saving kind of a parameter. You should use it judiciously on the point of care analysis. Of course, the blood gas analyzer is vital and needs to be installed in the ICU. So the selection of right point of care technologies is very, very important. Then you need in the protocol of fast hugs, what we have seen is you need to have proper support system so that there are no bed sores. So air mattresses are required. Again, I have seen most of the hospitals use very, very primitive kind of bed air mattresses. And I have seen patients getting bed sores because of a wrong or a substandard air mattress was used. So why we should compromise on that? Then it is better to do a proper nursing care of that patient instead of using an air mattress. So typically a 4-inch or 6-inch or 8-inch mattress does its job properly. The standard bubble mattresses are not really indicated in ICUs for long stays, especially after 3-4 days. If the bubble mattress is used, then there is a good chance the patient gets a bed sore only because of the air mattress and not because of immobilization. VT pump we have seen, I will not talk anything about that. Then next, again, new trend is airway clearance system. This is widely used in the Western countries, in Europe and US, and we have seen a huge benefit. It helps the patient in removing the cuff in the airway and very, very effective. There are hardly few companies who manufacture this, but if the hospital gets a chance, they should definitely invest into this because helps the doctors in the patient management. Again, one more important technology is mechanical chest compression. When in our hospital we decided to go for this technology, I was the person who first asked for, really is it going to add any value? Whether are we going to earn anything out of it? It's a very expensive device. When I bought it, it was something 8 or 9 lakh rupees. But after using it for a decade, first unit was installed probably in 2008 or 9. Now in Dinanath we have 3 mechanical chest compression. So the importance is whenever there is especially in super specialty hospital, whenever there is a young patient and who needs a CPR, you cannot say that we have given a CPR for 10 minutes or 15 minutes and we have lost him. You cannot say that. You need to do adequate efforts, and this device helps in a continuous CPR. It's a mechanized solution. You can give the CPR for 30 minutes, 40 minutes. And the most important thing is what we have physically observed in the last decade is if you save one patient out of 10, then don't look at the cost of this equipment. One life is definitely precious than what we invest into this machine. One young life saved is, you cannot count the benefit to that family or that person. So mechanical chest compression definitely hospitals should invest. One more new trend, again popular in American hospitals, is Emulation Shares. There are many patients who are healthy. They cannot walk, but they are fully conscious. They want to talk. They are not on any support. They don't need any ventilation, and they want to just move around and just, because if you stay in the ICU bed too long, there is always a possibility of ICU psychosis. I have experienced with my mother who was admitted in ICU for almost 35 days. Because after coming from the hospital, in the night she used to wake up and say that, nurse ko bulao, I want help in getting that and that. So this ICU psychosis can be definitely reduced if proper ambulation care is taken. If you shift the patient who are healthy enough to other areas, let them see the natural daylight and some other areas of the hospital, it helps them. So this is important. This equipment is again popular in Western countries. In Europe and US, I have seen every hospital is having a patient lifter. Unfortunately, in India, I have not seen a single hospital using the patient lifters successfully. Everywhere, they feel it's so uncomfortable to use the patient lifter, and the tendency is that instead of using the patient lifter, bring 2, 3, 4 mamas and just shift the patient and put him on the stretcher or the wheelchair. That's the most efficient way in India. But as we are seeing lesser and lesser people coming into this field for class 4 worker in a hospital. I think the use of patient care or patient lifters in ICUs is going to be inevitable. We are not going to get mama moshis in another decade's time because people are getting educated and they don't want to work as a class 4 worker. I'll just cover some points about the emergency. Before that, I want to show one of the emergencies which I saw in Rush Hospital, Chicago. I'll just show you. This is one emergency bed. What is the difference between this emergency bed and the emergency beds what we have? The biggest difference is in US, there are no procedure rooms in any emergency. Every bed is a procedure room. Whatever procedure you want to conduct on that patient is available on that bed itself. There is a crash cart, there is a OT light, there is a defibrillator, there is a cautery. If you need to suture or anything is required, it can be done there and there itself. So after seeing this in 2013, what I did in Dinanath the next year was we created at least 5 beds in a ER of 18 beds. So we created one cardiac bay. Again you see there is a pendant, there is a monitor, there is a OT light, there is a mechanical chest compression, there is a defibrillator, crash cart, everything equipping one bay. Similarly we have a trauma bay. All the equipments, all the fractures can be fixed here. There is, we cannot afford to have all bays having all the facilities, but it's a good combination what we have implemented. That out of 20 odd bed emergency, only 5 bays having all the required facilities, and this has definitely helped, especially during COVID. There were, in fact, after COVID also, what we have seen is there is a significant rise in number of patients with cardiac arrest or with neurostrokes, and now this base helps us a lot in managing these patients. Then we have a pediatric bay that can be used for pediatric emergencies. The nurse and the staff and the doctors are fully trained to handle pediatric emergencies in all these bays. And of course, to run a good hospital, you need to have very good ambulances. So there are government ambulances available. But every hospital should not have many ambulances because ambulances are actually draining a lot of money for the hospital. A lot of expenditure on driver salaries, fuel, maintenance of the vehicles. But at least some minimum number of ambulances that are having all the necessary equipment, like a cardiac ambulance should have the defibrillator, syringe pump, ECG machine that can transfer the ECG to the hospital even before the patient reaches. So even for neonatal transport, you need a dedicated ambulance, and unfortunately in India, the government ambulances through the 108 service are not equipped to handle this kind of emergencies. There are no dedicated high-end cardiac ambulances or there are no neonatal transport ambulances. We have seen the maximum benefit of the neonatal transport ambulance. There are obstetric centers on the periphery of the city, very small nursing homes, doing deliveries, and if they need any emergency for the newborn, they will have to shift it to a better NICU care. And if there is no transport facility, it's almost impossible to shift a baby who needs ventilator support. So having transport ventilator and transport incubator in an ambulance makes a big difference in managing a good neonatal care. I think I have talked about most of the things are about the hardware, all the equipment and the facilities what we need. But just having the equipment and facilities and money to invest into these things is not a guarantee to success for running a good ICU. It's very difficult to run ICU. I believe that all the setup what we discussed until now, all the 30 slides what we discussed until now is not weighing more than 30-40%. Then what is the balance of 60% you need? So one part is, again my previous speakers have talked about, is the good hospital information system and the electronic medical records. You need good processes, you need computerized processes, you cannot manage the data manually in files. So a very robust kind of a hospital information system and electronic medical record is absolutely essential. Without this, it's just not possible to manage the modern tertiary care or quaternary care ICUs. And now I think we have covered 50% of the, or maybe 45% success of the hospital or the hospital ICU. Last but not the least, this is the last slide, you need a good team of doctors. Without team of doctors, all the things what we have discussed until now is useless. You need good doctors and you need good teamwork. Modern hospitals are nothing but teamwork. The days have gone where one doctor was a hero and he used to save a very difficult patient. The modern day is everything is based on processes and it's a teamwork. There are doctors, even in the intensive care unit, I have seen doctors having, one doctor is having expertise only in ECMO, one doctor is having expertise only in high frequency oscillation, one doctor is having experience in only managing the patient diet. So when all these doctors work together in spirit to save one life, we see miracles. I have seen miracles like anything. So where everyone has lost hope, I have seen patients surviving and walking to home. So if the right kind of infrastructure with the right kind of processes and with the right kind of a team is set up, I think we are already, I always believe after seeing almost all hospitals in the United States and Europe or the UK, I believe our hospital system is far better than them. We give justice, our doctors are great. Until now, until maybe at 2015 or 16, I always, whenever I used to travel to US, I found something is better in the United States and that we should implement in India. But my last trip to US was in 2019 and I visited one hospital in Boston, I think it is a Deaconess Hospital. I took a tour for almost 4 hours. I saw each and every department and I'm glad I found nothing that was not available in the Indian hospital. So this is the way I think we are moving. We are having better doctors, we are having better infrastructure, we are having better softwares. So I think India is already becoming a hub of healthcare, and as a healthcare professional, everyone, we should feel proud that we are in this field and we are doing something fabulous that even our healthcare costs are not comparable. The ICU bed in the United States will cost $8,000 a day, and what we are providing, it's no comparison at all. So I think we are in a great field and we are contributing a great future for the humankind, and I think I am very fortunate to work in this field. Thank you very much.